Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect professionals with entrepreneurs that can help you go all in on your business. All right, we talk to people that have walked the walk, talked the talk, been through all the things that we experience as small business owners, and come out the other side more knowledgeable with more experience, more skills, and are willing to teach us that same thing so we can run our businesses more effectively. Jeff, I appreciate you coming. First of all, appreciate it very much. Anybody that gives the
hmm
time to us, our audience, I say it every time, but it means a lot. So I do want to say thank you. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah. Well, my name's Jeff Smoker. I own and operate Smoker Door Sales. We're located in Southeast Pennsylvania, and what we do is sell and install overhead garage doors. We do residential, we do commercial, and like I said, we do sales service, we do installation, and really in a fairly tight radius of our location here in Southeast PA.
Sure. Tell me a little bit of your background. Kind of how did you get into doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I grew up in the area here. I was one of seven boys on a family farm. So there was that's a whole other subject for maybe some other type of podcast for sure. Growing up with six brothers, but yeah, I grew up on a family farm. I did not go to college after high school. I graduated from high school. I was looking for a job, and I found actually, my cousin's husband, it was owned a small door business, and he was looking for someone to come in and help him. And I was, like I said, I was looking for a job. It was not like, this is going to be my career, but simply I need something to do. I'm out of school and I got to work. So that was in a nutshell how I got started. Like I said, grew up on a farm, milking cows and raising crops and that type of thing. But
Sure.
yeah.
So you got into the industry, and I'm sure you started learning the technical side, right? The installation, the service, all those things. Probably the
Yeah.
quoting side, the costs, all of those processes. How long did it take you to step out on your own?
So it took 9 years. So I started with this door company in 1989, and initially I was in the field. That's what I did. I learned the trade, basically boots on the ground, working alongside of other people. And I really didn't learn a lot of. I grew to where I was a pretty good door installer. I actually had worked for another company for a while, installing doors for them. But I got to a point where I was intrigued by what it really takes to run a business, like, and questions like, wonder if I could do this myself. And a lot of times, quite frankly, I was like, I think I could maybe do it better if I did it this way. And so really coming out of that entrepreneur spirit, that's something that I just was, I guess, born with, and intrigued with um, the possibilities, and sometimes frustrated with just what I felt was being held back, and the and so yeah, that's really in a nutshell. I Most of what I've learned in just like running a business has been learned as I've been running the business. If that makes
Sure.
sense. Yeah,
Sure. No, it definitely
yeah.
does. And so as you started out, like on your own 9 years later, what was it like? Like, how did you build that clientele? What was easy? What was hard?
Yeah. So there's a piece of this that my wife and I when I started my own business in 1998, I was married. Let me do some math. I was married for 5 years. We had two daughters, and my wife and I mean, we spent lots of time talking about, like, is this the right thing to do? Is this the right time? And there were several things that I felt was like a clear sign from God. My faith walk interacts with God at a pretty personal level. And so I got to a point where there were some people talking to me, people that I was seeking advice from, and they're like, you know what, Jeff, you just got to go do this. Like, and that's why I'm fascinated with the name of this podcast, Burn the Ship. So, like, that's what I did. I told my boss I was going to leave, and 2 weeks later I was on my own. But there's a bit more to it than that, a lot more to it than that. There were some people I interacted with, was doing work for, that were family friends, like growing up in the area that I was working in. Some of the accounts that I was working for while I was working for the other company were family friends of mine. And I'd talk to them sometimes like, hey, do you think I could do this? Do you think it's a crazy idea? They were business owners, in the construction trades. And and one in particular who was one of my dad's best friends just said, just do it, I'll give you my work. And honestly, I did not have a lot of work lined up when I went out on my, I had a couple of leads. I had one or two jobs, and the rest of it was just like I hit the floor running, like just I've got to knock on doors, talk to people, and I was able to pick up enough of accounts to to get by. The first the first year I was in business, I set up swing sets, backyard swing sets for a local company. I found out just through talking to people, they were looking for somebody to take like swing sets from their manufacturing out to customers, out to houses and set them up. And it was like I had to provide for my family. Like I said, the ship was burned. Like I was
Sure.
it was sink or swim, and I just so I just I did swing sets for that first summer, and I had a younger brother who was still in school, but not during the summer. Obviously, he helped me out on some of the setups that were bigger than what I could handle, and I just started working accounts and getting my word out. And it was a hard couple of years. Like it was, I mean, it was the finances were tight. I borrowed um, I borrowed $15,000. No, no, no. I'm sorry. I borrowed $25,000 from my father-in-law to get started. I had a pickup truck and I had tools, and and I had $25,000. I started just like I did some advertising, but I bought some inventory, got some parts on hand, and just started. I mean, I was aggressive. I tried to find any. I mean, if you were building a garage and I drove by, it's probably stopping in to talk to you about doors.
Sure. No, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So what was that experience like of trying to learn how to wear all those other hats? To start learning the
Yeah.
advertising game, or how people can find you on the internet, or how to get your phone ringing, or
Yeah.
perfecting that system of knocking on doors. What was that whole, learning to be the whole business instead of being just kind of the technician or the salesperson like?
Yeah. So that good question. Maybe in 1998, the internet wasn't really a household thing. I mean,
Sure.
it's starting to be. So it was a lot of on the advertising end, it was a lot of like yellow page print ads and flyers, postcards, news, like maybe magazines that were addressing like home remodeling
Sure.
projects and that type of thing. But really, I learned early on that I needed to, and this is something I tell anyone that's going to start a business has that itch. You have got to have a mindset of learning. You've got to ask questions and you got to listen to the answers. And that's what I did. I had a brother-in-law. He's roughly 10 years older than I am, and it had been in business. He was that entrepreneurial guy himself. I talked to him a lot. I located a good account, and that's where I learned like the more like the accounting part of running a business. And goodness, man, a lot of it you just learn by making mistakes, but you've got to always have that posture of learning. Like if something doesn't work out, what can I learn from that? Like, how can I do it better the next time? Um, so key in development is just knowing that I know a lot less than I think I do.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Approaching everything with that um glass half full mentality of like, there are things that I can definitely add to the tool bag to make
Yeah.
this easy for me. So what are
Yeah.
things like for you these days? Like you obviously kind of crossed that threshold between residential and commercial at some point, and imagine you've got a few more employees. So
Yeah.
what's the
Mhm.
breakdown of what's happened since then?
Yeah. Again, just an ongoing process of learning how to lead a team. Today we've got 25 employees, and just for me today, it's more big picture, staying like casting vision um, supporting the people that answer to me as best I can. And again, it's just that mentality of always looking to learn. I have so much to learn. Like leading people is a challenge. Like in the early days, it was more about how can I find jobs to do and how can I get those done along with getting product ordered and invoices out and deposits made and bills paid and all of those things. Today, it's much more just like how can I lead the team to do the best they can do in the role they're in. And I'd say that's another thing. Like when you think when I think about what has helped me find success is being very aware of find like helping people find their best seat on the bus, like developing leaders within your organization, delegating to them, and then helping them settle into those roles. And if it turns out it's not the right place for them, being okay with saying, look, you're not a good fit here. How about you try this? That scene has repeated itself number of times throughout my years of business, and it's like brings huge satisfaction to me when I can say, look, that person is doing so much better doing this role as opposed to what he had been doing. For sure,
No,
that's
that
a
makes a lot
big
of
part.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's finding
yeah,
places where, because as a business owner, you really get attached and wrapped up in the success of your employees,
yeah,
like especially when you identify like with where they are in their life.
yeah,
Like you can
yep,
remember when you were in that exact same place. I would say that's one of the more difficult things, especially when you see some level of success of, within your business, is that you don't just hire people to further your money making operation so
hmm,
they can stay the same
yeah,
place in life. You take some ownership in how their life levels up too. And
hmm,
so you begin to, you begin to wear that emotionally when things aren't going well for those people, and you need to
yeah,
be able to put those people in a place where they feel like they can be successful and they can be valued as well. Like it really is a difficult thing. I think goes a little bit under noticed for people that are kind of getting into that entrepreneurial space, especially people with that get into it with a really big vision. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Is like
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah,
your employees want will become, the second breath out of your mouth behind, your goals and vision. So
yeah,
it's something everybody kind of needs to be cognizant of.
yeah, yeah. And um, I didn't start my business with a goal of in 25 years I want to have 25 employees or whatever, pick your I simply started because I just there was something deep within me that I just wanted to do this. I wanted to see what I could do, and the success was going to be a byproduct of me doing the best that I could do. And if there was going to be success to be had, like it that um I I early on realize that the important thing to focus on is the relationships of the people around you, and that's been so key. And the emotional leadership part of it sometimes is more important and harder than the intellectual business mind part of running a business. If you, I don't know if that makes sense to you, like
No, it does.
EQ versus IQ. I remember when I first read an article about that. Like I didn't know that term EQ until probably I don't know maybe 14 years ago, but it made so much sense to me, and it connected a lot of dots in my head. Like you've got to care for your people, being aware of where they're at emotionally, and understanding that the people they are at work is influenced by a lot of things that aren't happening at work, and just being aware of that. And the flip side is true also, just knowing that their experience at work is also having a direct influence on who they are when they're not at work within whatever their situation is, their families or or whatever else they've got going on. There's a there's a there's a there's more connected there than most people think about. Like your job has to be more than just a paycheck, or it
Right.
just becomes you just become I don't even know, like unfulfilled in it.
Yeah. And it's like when I finished college and I got my first job, right? I got it for a manufacturing facility that paid me really well to manage other people.
Hmm.
And the hardest thing about that job to me was that I was making decent money, but the forecast for me was to do something along the exact same lines of what I was doing for some 30 odd years
Hmm.
while my pay increased basically equal to the cost of living, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
That's hard. Um it's hard to rationalize in your mind at 20 or
Hmm.
21. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So like
I do.
if you
Yeah.
if you have those people working for you, younger people that are still clinging to those hopes and dreams and aspirations and really just don't have the vehicle to get them there, you have to have some incentive for hard work and growth, right? Like
Hmm.
you have to have some way to incentivize those people to work really hard, because you can't go and tell those people, hey, do this for 30 years and one day you'll figure it out. Like it's not an easy way to pitch
Yeah.
people. So it has to be
Yeah.
something that you as the entrepreneur can put a little bit of that vision on yourself and say, I felt exactly how you feel right now this
Hmm.
amount of time ago, and here's how I shook loose of that. And if you're not able to replicate that same experience of here's how I stepped away from those, the goal should be for you to start your own business, or for you to,
Hmm.
monetize some of these relationships in a
Hmm.
different way, or for us to work together, or for this to be an employee owned company one day. Like that
Hmm.
vision is something that manifests itself after you get a little bit of success, but it's so important to be able to articulate exactly what the big picture is to the people that are really the people making your business go around, so that
Yeah.
you can keep
Hmm.
those people happy. It's not an easy
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. It's not. And, you know, a couple of years ago, I was working with a consulting company, just helping me work through some, just I'd call it growth pains, like organizational health, and we worked through identifying what are the core values that drive the business that I'm running, Smoker Door Sales. And that process has been so helpful in just understanding that when the values that drive us are clear and they're identified, people rally around that. They want to be part of something bigger. And we've been focusing more on community engagement and giving them opportunities to get involved with needs in the community, whatever that might be. It could be a food pantry or a homeless shelter or whatever. But the when values when what you're doing isn't what it's all about, but it's about the values that drive you, it brings a purpose to a job that people want to be a part of. And it's not just about climbing that corporate ladder, making that next buck, or figuring out a way to get to the next pay scale or whatever.
Yeah, it's really not. And the most gratifying thing really about being in business, at least to me, is that you you begin to be that vehicle for other people, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
it's there are few things in life that are genuinely as gratifying as seeing the light change in someone's eyes whenever they go from the person that's really not sure what their future holds for them to the people that at least know if they follow the plan, there's something on the other side, right?
Yes.
Like
Yep.
you don't
Absolutely.
have to be the person that's stuck in the same place forever.
Hmm.
It's not necessarily easy. It's not easy for anyone, or else no
Yeah.
one would have employees, right? We would all
Yeah.
be doing
Yeah.
everything that we want all the time if it was easy, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
Um, I'm telling you, it's one of the most gratifying things in the world. It's wonderful to do for yourself. Like I make my own schedule. I wake up when I want. I take a
Yeah.
day off to go to my kids' award ceremony at school.
Hmm.
Whatever that may be.
Yeah.
10 times the gratification helping be that person for other people, right?
Yeah.
Like it
Absolutely.
really is. It's a powerful force. When you align
Yeah.
that with what is important to you and your business, you can do a lot of stuff. What would you say has been some of the obstacles, like some of the things that maybe you didn't forecast early on that you've had to overcome along the way?
Yeah. Obstacles. Oh man. Like one obstacle for me that was was like I didn't even identify for a while was just understanding, like understanding financials was an obstacle. Like I had to work. I didn't go to business school to learn how financials work. I learned that on the job, and the specific area of finances is like understanding how to correctly price a job, especially like a bigger commercial job. That was you'd think, well, that's simple. You should, but it's complicated, and you've got to be like, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle when you're on a bigger, more involved commercial job. So that was a big thing. And again, there I reached out to a consultant in the garage door industry that I learned about, brought him in. He taught me so much on pricing. So that's an obstacle. I think other obstacles along like different phases of running a business bring different types of obstacles. Like when I first got to a point where I needed to identify and put a general manager in place, for instance, like I'm going to call that like the organizational obstacles, understanding how a healthy organizational structure should look and how it should, like those things you've got to overcome in order to support growth. Like, because, when there's no way that I can be all things to all people in this organization. I've got to have people in place that take various roles and responsibilities and they own them and they take care of them. And so that organizational is like structure part was definitely an obstacle as well.
Sure, and that's a normal thing too. Like
Yeah.
the reason that we highlight that so much is that there are a bunch of people out there watching this podcast right now, right? And a lot of those people's hold back, especially in the South, right? Like I'm in Georgia, where you don't have to have a contractor's license to get into the vast majority of the service industry.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
the reality is that people are like, I don't really understand the financial side. I don't know how to use
Yeah.
QuickBooks. How do I
Yeah.
take payments from people, or how do I price a lot of this stuff, or what does it cost me to run my business day now? And what is profit and loss? How do I hire a bookkeeper? Like,
Yeah.
you're never going to know
Yep.
about the answer to all of those questions, right?
Yep. Yep.
And the best thing that I think that you can do is ask people that were in those same scenarios, hey, how'd you start this stuff whenever you started back in the day? Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different if someone started 25, 30 years ago, because the technology is very different.
Yeah.
But how those people go about solving their same problems is, I called someone who was a local expert, or I found someone
Yep.
who was in the industry that knew what they were doing. Like, they'll tell you how to lean on someone else's shoulder to find out what it is that you need to find out.
Yeah.
No one there's no one that has ever gone into any business that said, I understand every single piece of this industry and I know how to run this successful business and I'm about to do it and here's how we're going to do it, and we followed that plan exactly.
Yeah.
That was successful, right?
Yeah.
If you go
It's
into
not.
those businesses with your cup too full and you have nothing to learn, business will have nothing to teach you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that is a recipe for failure. So
Yeah.
that's the reason we talk about the obstacles that you overcome, and whether they be emotionally, like we talked about earlier,
Hmm.
organizational or real life or whatever those may be,
Yeah.
is like,
Yep.
people go through those things. The people that start
Absolutely.
businesses like you and I are normal people, with different types of relationships and beliefs and understandings and levels of
Hmm.
education and
Absolutely.
socioeconomic status. There are all these different things, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to take a leap in some area and learn it by trial and error, or some level of experience, or find
Yep.
someone that knows how to fix those problems in order to gauge what they are,
Yeah.
accurately, and to overcome them, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of your
Yeah.
only options.
Yeah.
There's not a
Yeah.
good how-to book for every industry in the world for how to start your business. Hopefully, Burn the Ship is a pretty good encyclopedia for a lot of you. I've
Yeah.
interviewed a lot of
Yeah.
people from a bunch of different industries, but end of the day, there's no way to know everything. You're never going to know everything. You're never going to know what you don't know, and you're going to have to
Yeah.
lean on some people to figure it out along the way. And I think you guys have done a wonderful job of that, and
Yep.
growing at your own pace. Every
Yep.
industry grows at their own pace. I know startup entrepreneurs that have been in business for 6 months that have 125 employees, right?
Hmm.
I know people that have been in business for 30 years who are incredibly wealthy that have had 4 employees ever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
like,
Right. Yep.
everybody, that you kind of take your own shape. Your journey is your
You
own,
do.
and there are people like me here to help you. I want to help you. I want to tell you about my experiences. I want to talk to more people on Burn the Ship that are trying to figure this stuff out, because it's not easy. There's no industry that's easy. There's no
Yep.
industry that's going to teach you A, B, C, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3 of what exactly you need to do to be successful.
Yeah.
Everybody's experience is a little bit unique. So,
Absolutely.
yep, I appreciate you again, Jeff. How do people find you? If they want to buy something from you, if they're in your area, want to pick your brain, where do they find you at?
Yeah, really. Go to our website, www.smokerdoorsales.com. That's we got all the information there, the About Us page. There's a video there that tells a little bit about the history of the business. That's our phone numbers there. You can obviously call, but we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Smoker Door Sales is a name. Search it,
Sure.
you'll find it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm
Yeah,
excited for you guys. I think you guys are going to keep doing cool stuff.
yeah,
I think the industry that you're in is very unique. You know that it plays well in the sandbox with a lot of things that are going on in the housing world right now. Um,
yeah, for sure.
and I think more than likely, you know, where we are in the housing world with insurance rate and house prices, it's going to continue to be this inverse thing. Houses are going to keep getting more and more expensive, which probably
Yeah,
means everything that you sell is going to increase in price as well. So
yeah,
if it's going to get more expensive, you might as well do it with people that care about you.
yeah, for
But
sure.
tell me this, this is kind of the last question I have for you, right? Is talking
Hmm.
about the name of the podcast, Burn the Ship. You're a perfect example of that, of that light switch moment where you have to go all in on your business and you just
Hmm.
decide to make it happen and figure it out.
Yeah,
If you had to sum up that whole experience, knowing that we're talking to people that are kicking around the idea of making that same bet, how would
yeah.
you sum it up? You know, what have you gotten out of this whole business adventure, and why should other people seek out that same experience?
Yeah, I love the burn the ships. I love that phrase because it really does sum it up. Like you've got that mentality of like, I'm all in. And I think just being okay with knowing that it's not all going to be easy and you're going to make mistakes. You've got to embrace all of that. I say seek counsel, talk to people around you, don't do something blind. But at some point, you just got to burn the ship. You just got to go all in and say, hey, I'm going to give this a whirl. I'm going to do the best I can. Keep that mindset of learning and talking to people, listening to people. And that's really what it means to me. And I love to see young entrepreneurs getting into um, trying things, getting into business. And, occasionally I have people that call me up and say, hey, give me some advice here. And it's great. Like I don't have all the answers. I have some, I can give you some advice, but we can learn together. And that's really what Burn the Ships is all about, learning together.
Sure, I think you're gonna be in that, because you know everything kind of comes full circle, right?
Yep.
Somebody's gonna call you and
Yep.
ask you for $25,000
Yeah.
because they have a wonderful idea,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
That's
Yeah. Bring it
happening one of
on.
these days, huh?
Bring it on. There's 6 door companies that have spun off of smoker door sales. Uh, there's one that's in Virginia, there's one in Kansas, and there's like some of them have been successful, not all of them have. But I still like to talk to those guys. They were former employees that learned the trade, and it brings me great satisfaction to see them doing well.
Sure. No, yeah, I
Yeah,
understand. It's like I said, it's
yeah,
a vehicle to change people's lives, whether you're
for
changing your
sure.
employees or your customers or yourself. You know,
Yeah.
it's a different thing. Well, I appreciate you, Jeff. We're gonna edit this over a
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
Okay.
We'll put it out there. I'll be in touch with you whenever we put it out. You're more than welcome to anything that we have, the full
All right.
content, the clips. You can use
Yeah.
whatever you want. But I
Cool.
appreciate your time. You know,
All right.
the conversation with you's been enlightening. Share the podcast in some way or shape or form. Please, if you're
Yeah.
listening, connect with Jeff, connect with me. If you need any of our advice or expertise, I'm more than happy to give whatever we have.
Yep.
And if you know other people that are in that same place in the entrepreneurship world, whether their story be a little of the same or a little different, I'd love to interview those people. These are
Yep.
wonderful opportunities for us to continue to learn and to put valuable content out and just to peek into all the areas in the universe that there are pertaining to business right now because everyone has a little bit different idea about it.
Yep.
You know, so it's an exciting thing for me, and I look forward to putting
Cool.
this out to as many people as possible. Just let me know if you need anything, okay?
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, no
All right.
problem. All right, burn the ship.